Let's start by creating a query in Design View. I will come up to my Create tab and I will click on Query Design. I'm going to go ahead and pull in a few tables. I will pull in the Employees table, pull in the Orders table. I'm also going to keep track of the shippers on the order, so I'll double click on Shippers as well. I'll start this by going out to my Employees table, and I see that I have a first name and a last name field. I'm going to go ahead and combine those together into a new field called full name, and I'm just going to concatenate the first name with a space and then concatenate that with the last name, and we end up with something like this. Stretch that out, and I can see I have 830 records out here, one for each one of my orders. Now I have three different shippers that can ship these orders, and in the orders table I can see that in the ship via field. So if I bring that down and drop that into the criteria, or rather the grid of my query, and I take a look at this, I can see currently for each one of my orders out there, Margaret Peacock, whatever order this is, used Speedy Express. And if you scroll through here, you'll see there's actually three different companies that we can use for shipping. Next, I want to bring in the freight field so we can keep track of the cost of the freight. And the whole thing's going to be based on the order date field, so we'll bring in the order date field as well. And when I run this, I get something that looks like this. Again, I have 830 orders out here, so I'm able to see every single salesperson, the shipper that they use to ship the order, the freight charges for the order, and also the date that the order was placed. Now, this doesn't do me much good as it stands, just because there's so much information. Maybe we can group this stuff together and consolidate things a little bit. So I'm going to come back out here, click on my totals button, and I am going to come out here, and on my freight, I'm going to go ahead and sum that up. And when I take a look at this now, I click on the run button, I can see that I am grouping things down to 812 records. So it grouped it a little bit, but there wasn't much slop out there. Since the ship via in the orders table is using a lookup to find the company name back in the shippers table, I really don't need the shippers table, so I've gone ahead and taken that out, and I'm just going to use the ship via from the orders table. Back in datasheet view, we had 830 records, and now we're left with 812 records. Why is that? Because we're only looking at sales for a particular order date, and if we have one customer who places several orders on the same date, they're going to get lumped together on the same date instead of showing each one of the orders. So if I was using the order ID, we would see 830 records, but we're using the date. So if a company or a customer has placed multiple orders on the same date, those are consolidated into one order, and then they're left off of the 830 total, which gives us 812. Back in Design View, under the Order Date field, I've gone ahead and put in some criteria under the field here for the date. I'm just going to say it's between January 1st, 1997 and March 1st, 1997. So instead of 812 records, we're going to restrict quite a bit of what we see here. And after typing in that criteria, I'm going to go ahead and run again. And I see I end up with something like 62 records out here, and all the dates on the right-hand side you can see fall in with the date range that I just described here. Okay, it looks like I'm done with this, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. When it asks to save changes, I'm going to go ahead and say yes, and I'll give this a name. And I'll just call this QRY EMP Freight by Date, or Employee Freight by Date. And I will go ahead and click OK. And now I see out here under my queries area, I do have something called Query Employee Freight by Date. Now let's go ahead and build a report off of this data set.